Hi everybody and welcome back to Lost Genre Reddit Stories. Before we start today's main story, I want to tell you that I did my best to curate this story and to give you guys the best and most information possible because OP did write in a very strange way and there was a lot of information in the comments. Also, there was a lot of people questioning if OP was on the spectrum. He said he wasn't, that he has ADHD. Also, there is mention of a terminally ill parent. In case that makes you uncomfortable, you might want to skip the story. And now, let's get started. This post is from the subreddit Am I the A-hole with an H, and it's by user GoodShirt360. Am I the a-hole for telling my wife that I would choose my mom over the birth of our baby? So, to get started, I am 36 male and my wife is 33 female. We are expecting our first child soon. My mother, who is 70, was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer and has been hospitalized since it is so bad doctors say that she will not survive, since treatments aren't working well on her. My dad died when I was young and my mom took care of me while working 2 jobs so that I could have a good life. I feel I owe everything to my mother. I bought her a house and whatever she needed so that she could live her older years well, since we had to struggle so much. When I got home from work and had visited my mom, my wife and I were talking, and she asked, if you got a call that I was in labor or your mom was going to die, who would you pick? I told her I would pick my mom. She asked why, and I told her that I wanted to be there to say goodbye to my mom since I would never see her again, and so she would have somebody there in her final moments. She got mad and asked about her and our baby. I told her I would try to be there as fast as I could after my mom, but that most likely wouldn't happen, so I told her not to worry about it. She was still mad and told me to get out of the house. I left and now I'm at my mom's house. So, Reddit, am I the a-hole? Well, OP, in my opinion, no, you are not the a-hole. I think the question that your wife asked was incredibly unfair. There is no right answer. You can't possibly answer that question without looking like either a bad son or a bad husband, so there's no upside for you. Now, I've never gone through pregnancy, so I have no idea what it does to your body and to your mind. I've only known what my wife has told me in her 3 pregnancies, that she didn't go through so much. It wasn't easy, but it wasn't the worst thing in the world either, according to her again. So I don't know what prompted your wife to ask you that. Maybe she needed you to choose her even if it was a hypothetical. I don't know. All I know is that the question was incredibly unfair and you just answered the best that you could. Now, if I would have been in your shoes, I think I would have tried to avoid answering the question but wanting to get to the root of the issue because there is something that your wife is trying to ask. She just did it with the wrong question. So I would tell her that there is no possible way to answer that question without looking like a bad son or a bad husband and future father, but I would like to know what is it that she's truly wanting to know. Does she feel like I'm not there for her all the time, or am I missing something? And then we could get to a conversation where she could probably tell me what's really in her mind. Now, I could be absolutely wrong, but that's what I would do in that situation. And what about you guys? What is your judgment regarding OP's answer, and what would you do if you were asked that question? Let me know in the comment section, and now let's move on to the community comments to see what they said. Tina Siv says, there is absolutely no way to win there because the intent wasn't to actually plan for the contingency, which would have been smart by the way, so not the a-hole. She somehow heard I care more about others than you and our baby, when the situations can't be compared. If you make up, you should actually have a plan with someone to take your place with them and video call if it happens. And also talk to your future pediatrician about how to be safe in letting your baby meet his or her grandma as soon as possible in a safe way. Getting professional photos of them together and all of you as a family would be worth looking into. Your kid will definitely appreciate them when they are grown up. Miss Black to Life says, jacked up question, but from lived experience, my mother was dying and my bestie was having a baby, her last, that had been full of complications and she wanted me there like I was with her for her first. I asked simply, can you plan to give birth at the same hospital my mother was at? I went from floor 4, the cancer ward, to floor 2, the birthing floor, the entire day. The doctors knew what was up and what I was doing. So it allowed me to be there for the both of them. Talk to her and find a compromise and make a plan. She's pregnant, which tends to make one a tad more panicky and emotional. And designer Lie 8610 says, "What an awful situation to be in for all three of you. Mom is dying, you're torn between your pregnant hormonal wife and your mom's last days, and your wife's pregnancy is being totally overshadowed by it. Your wife must feel so alone at a time when she's so scared as F. My heart breaks for all three of you. No a-holes here." Additional information from OP's comments. First things first, I didn't go running to my mother. I went to her house, the house I got her, and I'm staying here alone. My mother is in the hospital. Second, my wife could have chosen to have the baby in the same hospital my mom is at, because it is a possibility, but she chose a hospital that specializes in mothers and babies. Now, about the question, I figured there was no right answer and I would make sure she was safe first, especially since her mom and sister live 5 minutes away from us. I do know that women and children do die in childbirth. She would also not be alone, she wants her mom to be with her too. I would tell her where I'm going and I hope she would understand the choice I made considering she's not a needy, controlling woman. I did plan to go home and apologize today. I don't think I have made her feel alone. I have been to all but one appointment and that's because she forgot to tell me about it. I do a lot of house chores and I have taken off a lot of days to help and comfort her through this. I may be busy with my mom, but I have tried my best to find a balance. I have put my wife before my mother even before she got sick. When my wife wants me to come straight home, I do, and I only go see my mother in the hospital 3 times a week. My wife has never had to wait for my attention or help, ever. During the day, my wife is usually out with friends or at her mom's house, so maybe I could do more, but I don't know what else to do. I give her a lot of attention, but I do plan to make things right with her. But there's no way she could feel second place to anyone. The only time we've delayed anything was our wedding, and that's because her mom was sick. And I bought my mom's house before I met my wife. The reason why I left the house and not her is because it was late and I wasn't going to let my pregnant wife leave the house alone at night. She told me that either I left or she would, and I'm not about to send my wife to her mom's house late at night, so it was better if I leave. Also, yes, this baby was planned and wanted by the both of us. I haven't spoken to my mom about this. She would probably tell me that my wife and child come first. But it's an impossible situation. My mom literally has no one but me. I am an only child. My father already died and there's no more family. All her friends are either dead or live far away and can't travel. And I have to say, the day I found out my mom had cancer, my wife went to her sister's house because they had a girls' night and wasn't there for me. I think we both need to put each other first. Okay, well, the community is between not the a-hole and no a-holes here in the top comments, although there were some comments that deemed OP the a-hole. And OP gave us a lot more context in the comments that, like I said, I curated the best I could because it wasn't easy with all the typos and constant repetition. Anyways, it's time to move on to the first of 2 updates to see how this story continues. But before that, if you're enjoying the videos so far, please go ahead and click that like button, and if you don't like it, you can always click the dislike button. And of course, if you want to comment, don't forget those emojis because I'm really enjoying those emoji comments and trying to figure out what they say. And finally, if you're new to the channel and you enjoy my content, then don't be shy and subscribe. Join the community. You'll feel better. Now, let's move on to that first update. Hello again, people of Reddit. Some of you asked for an update, so here it is. I went back home yesterday afternoon and she wasn't there. I assumed she was at her mom's house. She came back in the evening and we had a talk about what happened. She did apologize for asking the question and that when she thought about it, she understood my answer because she would do the same. I asked her why she asked that and she said she didn't know and thought I was going to pick her since I normally do. I kinda just said okay and moved on. I did tell her that I want marriage counseling after or even before the baby's born. She asked why and I told her how I felt she doesn't put me first and she denied it. So I had to show her proof of what I meant. Things like messages of times where I felt unimportant to her, when I needed her, and where she told me she felt unimportant. In my case, it would be, for example, the fact that she chose to go out with friends and sisters on a girls' night after I told her my mom was going to die. Like, she could have asked how I was, but instead she said she was running late and she would be back later. Also, if you ask my wife what's going on with my mother, she can't tell you. She also couldn't tell you which hospital she's at or what type of cancer she has. So after I showed her my proof, she said she didn't do that and she never made me feel unimportant, and she got mad and started yelling. Then I just listened to what she had to say, and basically she told me I made this crap up and to sleep in the guest room instead of kicking me out, so I guess I got a win there. She also told me that she no longer wanted me in the delivery room, which I was fine with considering it's her choice and I can't make her let me be in there. I understand to an extent where it's coming from. I will go into therapy, which was suggested, and I think I do need it. Anyways, that's it. Thanks for the advice, y'all gave me some good and bad advice, and I apologize if my comments on the previous post came off as mean. I'm not really a friendly person till you know me, and I tend to get defensive when being accused of something. And here's where this story gets a little bit weird. In the comment section, OP was responding to some questions, but was doing it in a way that seemed like he was pretty detached or like wishy-washy about the whole thing, like some people said. At the same time, there was a bunch of angry commenters just throwing hate at OP, calling him a bad husband, and all of that because he didn't understand what his wife was going through. Now, I do get that from some of his answers you could extract that, but the information that he was giving was that he always put his wife first, and he didn't antagonize her. He tried to comfort her and he tried to understand what she was going through and gave her space to do so. Now, I might have missed something, but I read all of OP's responses and some of the attack comments, and I don't think the community was being completely fair with OP. But again, I could be wrong because I missed something. Anyways, it's time to move on to the final update to see how this story ends. Hello people, this will probably be my last and final update. I read a lot of your comments and I did apologize, not for bringing up marriage counseling, but for the time when I brought it up and showing her proof of how she put me in second place. She did forgive me and told me I was still not going to be at the birth of our child. I said to her that it was okay and that I had accepted it and I wasn't going to fight her on her choice. I will hold myself accountable, not her, nor do I blame her. I understand pregnancy is scary and difficult, and everything that goes on during it and childbirth is not something I take for granted. I will try my best to get her trust back, but just not right now. I'm giving her space and not trying to stress her out more. I've told her that I want to be there, but she said that no matter what I do, I can't be in there, so I'm not fine with that, but I'm accepting it. I did tell her that I think she and I both need some space before the baby comes, to which she agreed. I told her I would leave, that she could have the house, and that if she needed anything, to call or text me. No, I'm not at my mother's house. I'm at a friend's house. He doesn't live there anymore, but he usually rents it out. And no, she does not know where I am. She didn't ask, so I didn't tell, mainly because her family would be banging on my door. Still, I think she's at her family's house right now, and her sisters sometimes usually set her straight and tell her she's overreacting, so that's about it. To all of you asking, why don't you kick her out? It's because I'm the only person who makes money between the both of us. She chose to be a stay-at-home fiancé, then a stay-at-home wife, and now a stay-at-home mom. She said her job wasn't paying enough when we got engaged. And I know, especially now, that if I kick her out, it will be called financial abuse or emotional manipulation or even straight up abuse. So it's better if I leave. Yes, I do plan to go back home when the baby is born, and to someone who asked, I do plan to take a paternity leave. To the people who I know are going to ask, why aren't you fighting harder to be in the delivery room? I've learned that some things I cannot control, and one thing is people. If she doesn't want me in there, I won't be. It's her body, her choice. And like I said before, I'm trying not to stress her out more, and if I start fighting to be in the delivery room, that'll just stress her out. Lastly, about the possibility of divorce. I do care if she divorces me. I do love her, but I cannot control how she feels so personally. I won't beg her not to divorce me if that's what she chooses to do. I will suggest that we get help, but if she doesn't want to, then so be it. She will get nothing in the divorce. Does she know that? I don't know. We have an ironclad prenup and she agreed to it. It stated that anything that was purchased before the marriage would be mine. And since even before we got married she was stay at home, as I mentioned, I purchased the house and everything before we got married, so it's under my name. However, I don't plan on getting a divorce. I don't hate her, I love her. But if she decides to divorce me, then she'll have to get a job and I will probably end up paying child support. I'm not throwing away anything. I'm just giving her space and not making her more stressed, because when I try to talk and work things out, she gets frustrated and stressed and either starts crying or starts yelling. Hopefully, therapy will help me. I have an appointment set up. And that's it. And even though OP wrote a lot of responses, they were basically the same response in different ways of trying to express them. And I included all that information in the update and final update. Now, I gotta say, regarding this whole situation, I feel very uneasy. I do get the impression that OP is a little bit like unattached, or he's checked out or something. And I also get the impression that the wife is not doing her best to make OP feel okay. But that could also be because of the way OP is presenting his case. All I know is that there's a baby coming up, and I hope for the sake of that baby that these two get their crap together, work it out, and become a family. And if not, then at least be civil when co-parenting, because that kid's gonna need it. And having said all that, OP, here's wishing you and your wife the best in the future. Hopefully you guys can work this out for the sake of your child. Take care and thank you for sharing. And after all of that, I definitely need a mood booster post. So if you do too, stick with me and let's finish the video with that. This post is from the subreddit Malicious Compliance, and it's by user Shellyfish04. Boss introduces new time tracking tool to avoid time manipulation. Backfires on him. I work in a small startup company of around 12 people. It's a very good atmosphere in the office and everyone pulls their weight and is super motivated. However, our boss likes to micromanage us, even though he has no expertise in any of our fields: marketing, design, accounting. In marketing and design, we suffer a lot from that, since he will make changes to our strategies, posts, websites, sometimes without telling us, and then he gets upset at us when the customer feedback is bad and we aren't reaching our predicted goals. So recently he told us that the reason he thinks we aren't seeing enough results is because we are manipulating our hours and not actually putting in the work we should. Until then, we each wrote down our hours manually in an Excel sheet. But with the new time tracking tool, he would see how long we are working down to the minute. We also could only log in on our desk PCs and previously approved home office devices, but not mobile, because if you're not at your desk, it's not work. Yeah, he's an idiot. After our initial shock passed, our boss left for the day. Our manager called for a meeting and we came up with a plan. We would do as he says in the most just following the rules way possible. 1. We would not engage in work-related conversations with him unless we were sitting in our desks and were clocked in. 2. Any questions he asks after we are clocked out will only be answered once we clock in again the following day. 3. Every phone call, text message, or otherwise work-related thing outside of the office would only be answered once there was an option for us to clock in, either the next day in the office or, for some of us, on our home office device. 4. Since we no longer have the option to shift time manually, all work minutes and hours would be clocked exactly when they took place. Side note, in my country, weekends pay better. Sundays have to be paid double, and working after 8 p.m. warrants additional financial benefits by law. Previously, if we needed to post something really quickly or had a question, we would just add the weekend hours or late time to the upcoming Monday, basically out of goodwill. But no more of that. And 5, we would stop any independent activity, like posting on social media or writing an email, and would send him everything to approve before following through. After about a week, our boss was so fed up with this that he gave us the option to clock in from our mobile devices, so we could get a more immediate response to his questions. However, this of course led us to clocking in way more frequently, since, as I said, he likes to micromanage and is therefore asking a lot of questions. I am happy to report that as of 2024, we have abolished the system again and regained most of our independence. And even though our boss is still pissed about how we exploited the system, it brought the team closer together and hopefully taught him a lesson. Well, OP, he may see it as you guys exploiting the system. I see it as you guys just using the tool that he forced you to use. So it's all on him and his idiocy. Thanks for sharing, OP. And that's it for today's video. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch it. Now, if you've gotten to this point in the video, I assume that you like these stories that I'm reading out. So here are a couple more that you might enjoy. And if you don't have any time to watch another story right now, save it for later. And also, don't forget to hit that subscribe button.